Hey, welcome to the Van Marie podcast. I am a 20-something who loves to travel, but specifically travel on a budget, and it gets me into some questionable situations. So strap in, grab yourself something to drink, you might need it, and I'm going to tell you about the time that I got stuck in a blizzard because of a tall, shy, medium ugly guy that I literally just met. Today I am joined by my kitty and I am drinking chai tea at 3 p.m. So let's get into it. Hey guys. For those people who are watching, this is my cat. His name is Thunder, but he doesn't know his name and he only responds to Kitty because that's all I called him when he was younger. He will make noises and give commentary throughout the pod, but he just likes to feel included, you know? We're all kind of like that. Anyways, my name is Anne Marie. I am currently building out a 2000 Ford Econoline, and my cat is eating the wire to my microphone. All right, you can take a break and come back later. So hence Van Marie. I have been wanting to live in a van for like 6 years now, and I'm finally making it happen. Slowly but surely. I wish it happened a little quicker, but you know, such is life. I love to road travel and to boondock, and so I travel a lot in my daily driver. I have a little Jeep Liberty, and so if there's something you need to know about me as well, like I will take any opportunity to like squeeze the most amount of opportunity and fun out of like any situation. So if there's even like the tiniest bit of opportunity for something really spontaneous and serendipitous to happen, like I will follow that whim to every end of the earth, and that's I think really my issue and my toxic trait. But nonetheless, this story was from, I mean, it has to be 3 or 4 years ago at this point. Anyways, it's Mardi Gras season, which it's about to be Mardi Gras in Louisiana right now as well, so I thought it would be a nice way to celebrate the Mardi Gras season. So it's a week before Mardi Gras in Louisiana, which if you know anything about the holiday, we celebrate it for a good 2 weeks. Mardi Gras happens on Fat Tuesday, so it's on a Tuesday. And the weekend leading up to the Tuesday, there's parades every single day. And the weekend before is also a bunch of parades. So it's 2 weeks before Mardi Gras. So I decided to go to a parade to celebrate the season. And I'm not really feeling it. I'm not in the mood, if that makes sense. I didn't really dress up. I had just came from the climbing gym, so I just looked a bit grungy and stingy. But I decided to go anyways because I'm Mardi Gras only happens once a year. Let's make the most of the situation. So I go with one of my good friends, and in true Louisiana style, when we're all walking down the streets, watching this parade, we run into a slew of people that we know. So we happen to run into a guy that we went to high school with, and we're just kind of saying our P's and Q's, saying hi, hello, how are ya? But then it reaches past the thresholds of just nice casualties, and now all of a sudden we're all hanging out. And it's just understood that we're gonna continue hanging out for the rest of the evening. And I wasn't really close with this guy from high school, but I was yeah, for sure, let's all hang out. So it's we have a whole group going, and in this group there's this guy who is a friend of the guy that I went to high school with. I hope you're following. I could not tell you the name of this man, which really tells you something. But anyways, he's tall, which if you know anything about me, I am a 5'10" woman, and I live in Louisiana, and Cajun blood is short. So I am a sucker for a tall man. He is very, very shy, but he's tall. I don't really talk to him that much, but turns out that he's visiting from out of town, and he is originally from Lafayette, Louisiana, but now lives around Denver, Colorado, doing offshore engineering stuff. And I hear him tell this to a friend of mine, and in the back of my head, I'm like, oh, I got this, because I lived in Boulder, Colorado for a summer, and people from Colorado love to talk about their state, and they love, I don't know, I just like had a common thread, and I was like, oh, this is my back pocket card, I'm gonna pull this out later, and it's gonna be amazing. So the night goes on, I don't really talk to this random tall man. We should give him a name. Let's just call him Will. His name is Will. This is so sad. I really need to remember this man's name. But anyways, life goes on, and then, you know, all of a sudden we start a conversation. Very casual, not, you know, it's just like, oh, what's your name? Nice to meet you, kind of things. And then he's like, oh, I'm from Colorado. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're from Colorado? No way. Or you live in Colorado? No way. I didn't know that. I actually lived in Boulder for a summer. And he's like, oh, wow, that's cool. Whereabouts? You know. Then all of a sudden, off to the races. We're having this beautiful conversation. Anyways, we flirt the whole night. It's very fun. All of a sudden, I'm having a good time. He buys me drinks. We're chit-chatting. And he's only visiting for the weekend, and he's going to go back to Colorado. So it's just kind of like meeting a new person, having a good time, nothing serious, you know? And then we're eating way later in the night. I have no idea what time it is, but it has to be at least 12 or 1 a.m. Maybe not that late. I don't know. It's late, okay? Because we had gone to parade, to bar, now to food. So it's obviously very late in the evening. And we're chit-chatting, and, you know, we're all of a sudden we're finding all these things we have in common. You know, we both played tennis in high school. We both yada, yada, yada. I'm like, what do you do when you're not working? He's like, oh, I really love to ski. I'm like, that's really cool. Like, I've never been skiing, but, like, that sounds fun. And he's like, yeah, like, I gotta go back to work. Like, I really wanted to be here, like, on Mardi Gras, but I couldn't make it because I'm supposed to work. So I decided, like, my happy medium would be coming the weekend before, or 2 weekends before, just to see some of the parades and see old friends. And I was like, yeah, for sure. And he's like, but I'm gonna go up and work for a week, and then I'm, like, heading straight up to Keystone because, like, I love it. Like, I'm always skiing in Keystone, stuff like that. And I'm like, wow, that's super cool. And then, you know, we continue to conversate. Life goes on. Anyways, so it's Mardi Gras week now. And I get invited to go visit my friend in Kansas. So my friend Grace lives in Kansas, and my other friend, Maggie, we were going to drive up to go and meet her in Kansas for a week because my friend Maggie is a school teacher, and she doesn't have work. I didn't have school or work because at the time I was a fully remote student. So I did all my classes online except for one class on a Tuesday and a Thursday. So I didn't have classes, and I could go up for a long weekend and / week, I think, to Kansas. So that's what we decided on. So we drive up to Kansas, and if you need to know anything about me, is that, like, once I get out of Louisiana, everything seems so close to me. So driving to Colorado from Louisiana is like 19, 20 hours. Okay, I'm not doing that. But all of a sudden I'm in Kansas, and Colorado is 6 to 7 hours away, and I'm like, oh my gosh, let's go, like, let's go for a little day trip, which doesn't make any sense, but here we are. So before I went up to Kansas to visit my friend Grace, I got invited to a ski weekend with old friends in Colorado, because I lived in Colorado for a summer in Boulder, and it was like my old friends from when I lived in Colorado. They were like, hey, let's do like a little reunion and go up and ski for the weekend. And I was like, wow, that sounds super, super fun. I've never skied before, but like, when in Rome, let's do it. So, and I'm never going to get that opportunity again. Like, someone's dad had like a place for all of us to stay. And skiing is really expensive. So I was like, oh, well, if I have a place to stay, like, that's already like a portion of it off. Like, I don't even know if I'd ski, but like, sounds like fun. I'm only 7 hours away. Let's do it. So I decide that we're going to take my car up to Kansas, which is a Jeep Liberty that I've had for forever. And I love to take road trips in it and, you know, do all kinds of stuff. But it has no snow tires and no four-wheel drive and gets terrible gas mileage. But I was like, let's do it. Sign me up, you know? And so I convinced my friend Maggie that we should drive my car to Kansas, and then she offered to fly home after that. So we went up to Kansas for a week, spent Mardi Gras there. It was lots of fun. And then we drove to Colorado, and then I dropped my friend Maggie off at the airport, and she flew home from there because she had work and stuff like that. And so I stayed for the weekend and went up to go meet old friends and to go like hang out in this little ski town. But Colorado had a terrible week that week. They had like a couple of avalanches and like a 50-car pile up. Like, it was a mess. So there was a lot of people who were gonna come to ski that weekend who just decided not to come. And so originally I was gonna go like snowshoeing with a couple of people who weren't skiing, which is just like hiking in the snow, basically. And they didn't come. So all of a sudden, I'm the only one who's not skiing, and I'm hanging out with a smaller group of old friends that I haven't seen in literal years. And I'm in this ski town, and, you know, I'm like, whatever. It's beautiful here. I'm here. You know, we're going to make the most of it. So I go, like, snowshoeing alone. I don't go skiing because, like, I've never been before, and, like, no one is down to teach me. And I just, like, know nothing about it. So I'm just like, not gonna do it. And then the weekend ends, and I'm supposed to drive back to Louisiana, like 19 or 20 hours, so that I can go to class on Tuesday. And all of a sudden, my professor cancels classes for that week. That Tuesday and Thursday, all of a sudden, I don't have to be in class. And the rest of my classes I can do online, which I have been doing, have my computer. And I'm like, damn. And I was also supposed to go climbing in Arkansas the next weekend. So it's like Monday or Sunday or Monday at this point. And I was supposed to book it back to Louisiana so I can go to class on Tuesday. But now all of a sudden I don't have to be back in Louisiana for class. And I just don't feel like driving all the way back to Louisiana just to get back in my car and drive again up to Arkansas. So I just decide that I should just slowly make my way to Arkansas and just not go back to Louisiana that week, and just like turn my supposed to be 2 long weekends into 2-3 weeks worth of travel. So now all of a sudden I have like a week free to do whatever I want in Colorado. And so I'm like, I'm in Colorado, I'm gonna do the most with what I got. So I go down the mountain and I'm alone. So I'm like, I want to meet up with other people. Like, sure, I can make the most of it while I'm alone. But anytime I'm traveling alone, I love to meet up with old friends, meet new people, get to know someone, hang out. I'm an extrovert, okay? Well, so remember how I was talking about that guy that I met previously back in Louisiana on Mardi Gras that was super stoked about skiing? Well, when we were having that conversation over pizza at 1 a.m., he mentions that he's going to Keystone and that he's going to go skiing. And I just happened to say, oh, wait, I'm literally going skiing with friends next weekend in Colorado in Keystone. What a crazy coincidence. Why I decided to bring that up, I have no idea. But I tell this man that, and he's like, oh, dude, like, we should totally meet up. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, sure. And at this point, I'm bullshitting him. Like, I had zero intention of really meeting up with this man, but I'm just like, you know, if that happened, that would literally be insane. How funny that we happened to meet each other in Louisiana and we both happen to be in the same ski resort on the same weekend. Like, yeah, let's meet up. Like, it'll be super fun, whatever. Which is great if I, A, was going to be in Keystone, and B, I don't know, knew how to ski. So, anyways, I am now in Colorado, and I have spent a whole weekend in the ski town, and I haven't been skiing, and I kind of want to, but I'm like, no one's going to want to teach me how to ski. Like, people in Colorado are like weird about their skiing. Like, no one's going to teach me. So I talked to an old friend of mine and I asked her about it. I'm like, do you think it's possible for me to like ski even though I haven't skied before? And I tell her that I'm supposed to go skiing with somebody from Louisiana, and she's like, oh, a Louisiana boy? Like, I'm sure he's super nice. Just like tell him what's up. Like, he'll definitely teach you how to ski. Like, for sure. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Like, Louisiana people are super fun and super awesome and super helpful. He'll teach me how to ski, right? Okay, no. Anyways, also, I'm just not honest. Like, I pride myself on like being a blatantly honest person, but at this time, like, I very much was the kind of person that just put in a bunch of effort to like make plans work, but made it seem like it just like, oh, it happened to happen, like, oh, like, isn't it crazy that we're both free on this random Tuesday, you know, whatever. So we had gotten each other's numbers to meet up back in Louisiana over pizza. And so I decided to reach out and text him and, you know, say like, hey, would you want to meet up on like Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday and go skiing? Because I had to slowly start driving to Arkansas, which was going to take me a couple days. So I text him and I'm like, hey, you know, do you want to do this thing? And he's kind of like, yeah, you know, maybe we could go this day, maybe we could go that way, like not making finite plans. So I just like go camping for a day by myself, waiting to hear back from this man. I hate that. Why was I waiting on a man? And all my friends, like, who I knew in Colorado in this area were either out of town or like had school. So there was no one for me to hang out with. And I was just like really trying to make plans. I was just like really trying to make plans work with this guy. So I text him. All right, guys, I might have to take an intermission. I have to be at work at 4 and it is now 3:40. So we might take a little intermission, but for you, it'll only be a couple seconds. Love you guys. Talk soon. The story gets so much juicier after this. So last I was in the story, I'm pretty sure I was talking about how I had just texted this guy. What did we call him? Will? I just texted Will, quote unquote. And I told him, like, yeah, let's go skiing. So, and he had said, let's go night skiing, which to people who aren't familiar with skiing might sound a little scary. Night skiing isn't really skiing at night. It's like skiing from 4 to 5:30. It's like when it just starts to get dusk and half of the like lifts stop working or stop running, and you're going like night skiing, quote unquote, but not really at night. So this guy was like, yeah, let's go night skiing. And I was like, okay, that sounds like fun. And so I'm camping on my own down the mountain, like right outside of Boulder, right outside all of like the ski mountains, because most of the ski resorts, you have to pass through the same highway in order to get up to them. So I get a text from him and he's like, yeah, we can go night skiing tonight. And mind you, this boy fully believes that I'm like already in Keystone, because I don't know how to tell the truth and be fully transparent at this point. So I literally tell this man, or I allude the fact that I'm already in Keystone. So he's like, yeah, let's go night skiing together. So this man like thinks that I ski. He doesn't think I ski well, because I told him I wasn't very good, but he thinks that I ski and that I'm already in Keystone and that like I could just, randomly pop up, show up. So anyways, I'm like, okay, great. Let me figure it out. Let me go rent skis. Let me go up to Keystone and meet this guy. In the meantime, I had texted a friend of mine who lived in Colorado who had an Epic Pass that season and asked if I could borrow their pass so I didn't have to pay for a day pass or like pay to go skiing. And they were like, yeah, for sure, like come pick it up from my house. So I went to a friend's house who had an Epic Pass, and I picked up their pass and their goggles, and I had researched the cheapest place to rent skis and poles and a helmet. And it was like on the way up the mountain. And so I found like, I think it was like barely $60 skis, like ski rentals for a day, because I was like, I'll go night skiing with this guy tonight and I'll go skiing tomorrow and then I'll return them. Like one and done, call it a day. I know most people ski for 3 to 4 days and they like hit their stride at like day 4. But, I'll rent them for a day. I'll get to say that I skied. Like, it's no big deal, right? Like, it's fine. Like, I'm just going to do it. Like, I've been in these ski towns for a good 4 or 5 days at this point, and I haven't even freaking skied. Like, I'm in Colorado, and I'm from Louisiana. I'm not even supposed to be here, and I haven't skied yet. So, I'm going to effing ski, you know what I mean? And so, that's what I tell myself. I'm just like, screw it. Like, I'm just going to rent these skis. I'm going to find it cheap. Like, I'm never going to get this opportunity for this price again. Like, never will I just randomly be in Colorado, not have to pay for a ski pass, and just have to pay for rentals. Like, that's never going to happen. Sorry, I cracked my fingers. So I was thinking about all of this and asking myself, like, just freaking do it. So I go up to Keystone to night ski with this guy. And at the time when I was texting him and kind of making these plans, I had assumed that I would have been skiing for over 3 days. Because originally when I told him, like, yeah, I'm going to be up in Keystone, like, skiing with my friends, like, yada, yada, yada. Back when I was in Louisiana, had already been drinking and was talking to this man over pizza, and I was like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna be skiing with my friends, like yeah, like let's link up, whatever. I really thought that like at this point I would have like been semi-mediocre at skiing, because I was supposed to go skiing with mutual friends that I had lived with in Boulder, Colorado before, and I just like, for whatever reason at that time, like just assumed that they would have taught me, or like I would have gotten lessons, like I would have skied with them, you know what I mean? But needless to say, that didn't happen. So when I did end up actually making plans with this random boy, he was under the impression that like I had skied before, but I literally hadn't. So I go up to Keystone to meet this guy, and we were supposed to go like night skiing originally, but then he was like, no, let's just go to this bar because I'm super tired today. So let's go to this bar and like get drinks. And that's like, okay, cool. And then so I drive up from Boulder up to Keystone, which is like a good amount of time, like an hour, 2 hours. And literally I get there and he tells me he's going to eat at this bar with his dad. And so I'm slightly confused, and we had this like little tiny conversation about his dad coming into town to visit him. And I feel like this is a big contributing factor to the fact like how things were kind of weird between us, but I kind of brushed it off at this point. And then I randomly get a text message from him like 30 to 45 minutes later, and he was like, oh, like the food wasn't that good, like we just left. And I was like, okay, cool. So like he kind of stood me up, but like not really, and it was kind of weird. So then instead of going night skiing, we decided we were going to go skiing the next morning, or we were going to go night skiing the next day rather. And I was like, this is some bullshit. I was like, I'm sorry, I just like rented skis and drove up to Keystone and like went through all this trouble just to like not ski and to like not meet up with this guy. And I was like, this is some bullshit. Like, I'm pissed. I have been in snow for days on end at this point, sleeping in my car and like at random people's houses, or rather at, you know, someone's house that I don't really even know, like a ski lodge. And I was like, this is dumb. Like, I'm ready to get the heck out of Dodge. Like, I'm ready to get out of Colorado. Like, I'm very annoyed. And I just want to ski. Like, I've been in ski towns for a week now and had the opportunity of skiing, like, dangled in my face. Like, I really want to ski. And I said, screw this. Like, I called my good friends who had been skiing before, and I was like, do you think it's possible to go skiing by myself? Like, I know it's kind of dangerous, but do you think it's possible? And they were like, well, if you're going to do it, like, you need to do this, you need to do this, and you need to do that. You know, look at the maps, look at the public transit, research this, research that. And I was like, okay, fine. So I'm sitting in the parking lot of Keystone, like, researching how to ski and like how-to videos on YouTube and maps of Keystone and free parking in Keystone and where the bunny slope is and stuff like that. And I said, you know what, screw it. Like, this is some bullshit. I don't care about this effing boy. Like, I am here, so I might as well make the most of it. I have rented skis at this point. Like, I'm going to teach myself how to ski. So I went down the mountain a little bit, and I found a place to sleep, and I slept, and I decided that I was going to wake up in the morning and go to the bunny slopes and teach myself how to ski, because I didn't want to pay for lessons, and I wanted the cheapest thing possible. So I said, I'm going to teach myself how to ski. And I freaking did. I taught myself how to ski. I went to the bunny slopes and I taught myself how to ski like all morning. I was there by like 9 a.m. And there were definitely some embarrassing moments where I had to ask other people for help. Most ski resorts, if you're familiar with them, or bunny slopes, have like what they call the magic carpet, which is just like almost an escalator or like a giant treadmill, and it just gets you up the bunny slope because the bunny slope isn't big enough to have like a gondola or a lift, so they just like use the little treadmill, long treadmill, to get you up the hill, so you can just go down it multiple times. And there was at one point in time where I fell on the magic carpet, and I had children all around me who were like laughing at me, and I just got back up and kept teaching myself how to ski. And then I went down like the family trails and like the really easy trails, and I was like, fuck yeah, like I did really good for my first day, like teaching myself how to ski. I'm freaking exhausted. My feet hurt. Like, all I want to do is go home. I need to eat something, you know, all this stuff. And it's like mid-afternoon. And then all of a sudden I get a text message. Okay, well, it's not mid-afternoon. It's afternoon time. I get a text message from this guy that I'm supposed to go night skiing with that night. Because originally my mentality was like, okay, I'll teach myself how to ski in the morning and then I'll night ski with this guy in the night. That'll be enough time, right?
when originally I was going to give myself like 3 days to learn and then go skiing with this guy, all of a sudden I was like, yeah, all I need is a morning and I'll be fine. So delusional and ridiculous. I get a text message from this guy that's like, hey, let's meet at the gondola at this time. And I'm like, dang, I really don't want to go night skiing with this guy. Like, I feel so satisfied. I taught myself how to ski. Like, I had fun with myself today. Like, I really just want to go find a place, like a good place to sleep and go to bed and call it a day. I was supposed to leave Colorado the next day. Like, I was tired. But all of a sudden, you know, this man was texting me and I was like, oh, damn. And then he was like, I'm on my way. And I was like, oh, well, he's already on his way. Like, it would be so shitty to cancel on him now, right? When really, like, he canceled on me the night before. So, like, it would have totally been fine in hindsight to cancel on him. But I was too nice at the time. So I said, okay, fine. So I was already on the bus on my way back to my car. And I said, okay, I'll get on the bus and go meet this man at the gondola. Like, how bad could it be? All I have to commit to was like an hour. Like, you know, I'll go on this little date with this guy, and if it sucks, it sucks. If it doesn't, it doesn't, you know, whatever. So we meet at the top of the mountain, or we're supposed to go. He says, meet me at the gondola. And then all of a sudden I get to the gondola and he's like, I'm already on my way up, which he could have waited for me at the bottom of the mountain at the gondola and we could have ridden up together. But, you know, he chose to go up without me, which, you know, says something. But anyways, I go up on the gondola by myself and there's a bar at the top of the mountain and I go to meet him at the bar. And we sit down and we chit chat and we have a drink. He buys me a drink and I have like a spiced hot chocolate or something like that. And we're chit chatting, having a good time. Hi, how are you? You know, whatever. And we're having a good time. It's fine. I can chit chat. Okay, that's my strong suit. So I'm having a good time. And then all of a sudden I get a phone call and I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. I need to answer this real quick. And I get a phone call and the guy on the line's like, hey, what's up? How you doing? I'm, you know, from so-and-so rental company. I'm just calling to check in on your skis. And I'm like kind of panicking in my brain, like, oh, was I supposed to return my 1-day rental like today? I thought I was supposed to return them tomorrow morning. And he's like, hey, how you doing? We're just checking in on the skis. Want to know what's going on. We're about to close up shop tonight. Like, did you want to hear about our late night return, like, drop off? Or were you just gonna turn them in tomorrow? And I was like, oh, like, I was planning on returning the skis tomorrow morning, if that's okay. And he's like, yeah, for sure, that's totally okay. Do you want to hear about our late night drop off, like after hours drop off? And I was like, no, it's fine. Like, I'm gonna return them tomorrow, so I don't really even need to know about your late night hour drop off. And he was like, all right, sounds good. We'll see you in the morning. And I was like, all right, cool. And I answered this phone call and I talked to him on the phone, and I don't even think twice because I'm just flustered trying to get off the phone because there's this random guy who I don't know in front of me and it's rude to answer a phone call, and B, because I was just like, oh, I'm returning in the morning. It's fine. No big deal. We finish chit-chatting with each other and we decide to ski down the mountain. We ski down the mountain together and it was okay. It wasn't great. I fell a couple of times. He had to help me. It was kind of awkward, and at one point he was like, you don't really know how to ski, do you? And I was like, no, not really. And he was like, all right, cool. And then we finally get down the mountain, and the entire time we're skiing, I'm just kind of like, I'm so tired, like, this is not fun, my feet hurt, like, kind of thing. And we finally get down the mountain and we get to the like city, like town part of Keystone where you can like shop and whatever. And he's like, all right, sounds good. And he gives me like a little side hug and he's like, my dad's waiting for me. He's like shopping around, so I'll see you later. And I was like, yeah, for sure. See you later. Bye. And I was just like, this is so funny. Like, this little man-child that I just went night skiing with and I met up with states over just gave me a side hug and said, I have to go meet my dad. Bye. And I was just like, this is so silly and ridiculous, but whatever. And I start driving down the mountain to find a campsite because I'm supposed to drive out to Arkansas the next day. Like, I'm supposed to start my drive out to Arkansas the next day, and I'm supposed to make it all the way back to Kansas the next day. So I started driving down the mountain, and I actually got a phone call from my mom, and she's like, hey, like, I don't know if you know, but there's like some bad weather that's coming through Colorado tonight. Like, you should really look out. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Mom, like, you're being paranoid. It's really not that big a deal. I've already looked at the forecast. Like, don't worry. I am currently driving down the mountain tonight, and at the base of the mountain, like in the city, like in Boulder, it's not projected to look bad. Yeah, sure, up in the mountain, it's gonna look bad, but I'm driving all the way down. I'm driving all the way down the mountain tonight. I'm gonna make it out of the weather. No problem. Like, the city's not gonna look bad at all, and in the morning I'll wake up early and I'll get the heck out of Dodge and it'll be fine. And she's like, okay, sounds good, you know, just wanted you to be aware, no big deal, whatever. So I started driving down the mountain, and a little while after my mom had given me a little phone call, I was like, oh shit, like, I can't go all the way down to Boulder tonight because the ski rental place is halfway in between, like at the base of the mountain, like where Boulder is, and all the way up the mountain where Keystone is. And I was like, oh shoot, like, I have to drop off my skis tonight. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna go to the ski rental place, like, on my way down the mountain tonight and figure out their night drop off. Like, it'll be fine. So I go to the little tiny, and the place where I rented skis from was like so tiny. I went to their tiny little shack of a shop, and I was like looking around for any signs that would indicate night drop off or like what I was supposed to do. I walked all the way to the back of the place. I like looked around, and I was like, there's nowhere that looks anywhere remotely where I'm supposed to drop off my skis. And I was like, frick, like, I don't want to just leave them on the front door and they get stolen and I get charged. Like, I have no idea where I'm supposed to drop off these skis, like, for their nighttime drop off. And I was like, shit, I don't know what to do. And so I was in this tiny town called Evergreen, Colorado. And I was like, you know what, it's fine. Like, I'm just gonna go sleep in the Walmart parking lot in Evergreen, which, if you don't know, you can stay in most Walmart parking lots across the United States overnight for free, and they let you. So I was like, I'll sleep in the Evergreen parking lot, which I had done earlier that week anyway, so I knew it was safe and it was fine. So I decided to grab some food in town and then go sleep in the Evergreen parking lot. And I wake up around like 9 a.m. to a text message, and it was text messages from my friends who I was supposed to meet in Arkansas going climbing. And they were asking me like, hey, I saw some weather coming through in Colorado. Like, are you going to be able to drive to Arkansas? Like, how are you doing? Are you safe? Like, what's going on? And I was like, yeah, bro, like, I'm totally fine. No big deal. I checked my windows in my van and everything was fine. And I was super tired from the night before, so I decided to go back to sleep for like another hour. So I wake up at like 10:30. I don't remember. Anyways, I wake up and it's like actively snowing, which at this point, I had been driving in snow and ice conditions for over a week. I'd been in and out of ski towns where it was snowing, and it was no big deal. Like, my car fared well and I didn't have any issues. But it had never been actively snowing. It would just like snow during the night, and in the morning, you know, we would shovel it, or the roads would be plowed, and it was like no big deal. But for whatever reason, it was just like actively snowing like so hard when I woke up in the morning. and I was like kind of scared. And so I go to like get out of the Walmart parking lot and to start driving back to the ski rental place, which was like up the highway, like not even 10 minutes away. And I get stuck on one of the roads outside of Evergreen, Colorado, trying to get to the interstate, because it was like the tiniest little incline and the road hadn't been plowed yet. So I kind of got stuck, and I figured out how to like back up and maneuver and like get back into the Walmart parking lot. And I kept watching the snow plow like go down different streets, but they wouldn't plow this like one tiny street that I needed to get out of the parking lot. And then so I just kept watching, and I would watch the snow plow pass me. And as soon as the snow plow passed me, I was like right behind it, trying to get down all of these little tiny roads, because I knew that the interstate was probably one of the safer places to be, in the fact that it's the first thing that's plowed and salted, and so it has the most traction for my car that doesn't have winter tires or snow chains on it, or four-wheel drive for that matter. And so I kept trying to get to the interstate, and I couldn't get there. I tried going in and out of different exits in the Walmart parking lot. I tried going down different roads to get to the interstate, and every single time I would get stuck, and I would start over and turn around and go back into the Walmart parking lot. And I was like getting scared. Like there was a few times I got stuck in the parking lot of Walmart, and I was like, if I'm gonna get stuck in the parking lot, like how am I ever gonna get out of the state of Colorado? Like what is going on? And I start sitting for the last time in the parking lot, kind of looking around, and all of a sudden it just starts piling on, snowing so hard, and I can't see in front of me. Like that's how hard the snow was coming down, and that's how much snow was coming down. I couldn't even see like 5 feet in front of me while I was sitting in the driver's seat waiting for the snowplow to pass me again. And I was like, shit. And I just got scared, and I started crying, and I was just so done. Like I was frustrated from being cold and trying to sleep in the cold, and skiing and being tired, and like this weird thing with this guy. Like it just wears on you after a while. And after traveling solo in intense weather for like a week and a half at this point, like I was just tired. I was ready to get going and get out of the snow and change clothes. Like I only had one pair of snow pants and one pair of long johns that I had been wearing for like a couple of days, and I was just like ready to see change, feel like I was moving towards something better, like get some momentum. And I just broke when I saw how much snow was coming down, and I got scared that I wasn't going to be able to leave Colorado, and I was just like, oh my gosh. And so I called my mom, which if anyone knows me, like I don't really call for help many times out of the week, much less like call my parents in the middle of like a work day. And you know, I was like, Mom, I'm scared. And she was like, well, you know, I don't know what to do, but you know, you shouldn't stay in your car, like it's so cold. It's like, what do you see right now? And I started looking around, and I was like, I don't know, I see a McDonald's, I see a Starbucks, like whatever. And she was like, why don't you walk to the Starbucks and get homework done? And I was like, Mom, like I cannot think about homework at all right now, but yeah, like maybe I'll walk to the Starbucks because it'll be warm. And so I packed leftovers from dinner the night before, which was 2 chicken nuggets, and I packed my toiletry bag because I was like, maybe I'll want to brush my teeth and wash my face in the Starbucks sink when I get there, because I haven't done that this morning because I was so distracted by trying to get out of the snow. And I brought my laptop to do schoolwork and, you know, all these other things. And so I get to Starbucks, open up my laptop, try to do schoolwork, and I'm just holding back tears, like fighting back tears, because I'm just so scared. I'm like, I want to leave. I feel stuck. Like, I'm a sitting duck. Like, what am I going to do? I'm literally stuck in a winter cyclone, in a blizzard right now, which I found out later, and at the time that there was this whole cyclone going through the entire United States at the time, and it hit Colorado, and because it was so cold where I was, it turned into a winter cyclone, which is basically like a blizzard when it came through Colorado. It became super dangerous because of how cold it was. And actually, like in Boulder and in Denver, in the cities further down in altitude, it really wasn't that bad because people had, proper tires and, were more equipped to handle the weather, and it was not as bad. But further up in altitude where I was, it was super bad, and I just wasn't equipped with the equipment that I had. And so when I got to Colorado, I was kind of freaking out, like, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? And I figured out that there was a hotel like a little bit up the road. And so I researched it and got a room in the hotel. And at one point, they were going to close the Starbucks because of how bad it had gotten. And so they had cut up like the scones and the muffins and stuff that they were supposed to sell that day into tinier pieces and started handing them out as samples because they were going to like go bad. And this woman kind of scared me when she came up to me and she was like, "Do you want a taste of a scone?" And I was like mid-tear. And poor thing was kind of scared for me because of how scared I was. Talking back and forth with my mom. My mom was like, I normally don't advise this, but do you think there's anyone in the coffee shop who would give you a ride down the road to the hotel? And I had just gotten through telling my mom, like, I'm sorry, like, normally I would do that. I would ask someone random here, but people in Colorado are just like not nice like that. Like, I just don't feel like anybody would give me a ride. Like, I'll just walk, like, it's fine. Because at this point, my car, like, couldn't get out of the freaking Walmart parking lot. Like, it couldn't get further than, like, a block from the Walmart parking lot. And so I couldn't drive myself to the hotel. And just when I had gotten through texting that to my mom, the manager was walking around the Starbucks telling people that they were going to be closing around like 12, and at this point it was like 11. He was saying, we're going to be closing at 12 because of the weather so that our employees can get home safe. Which, like, if a giant corporation is closing early, that it means like something is really up. And so the manager kind of startles me and scares me a little bit. And he's like, "Hey, like, I just wanted to let you know that, like, we're going to be closing at 12. And I was like, "Okay, sounds good." And I was like really like fighting back tears at this point. And he can kind of like see it in my eyes. I'm sure of it. And he says, "Do you live close?" And I was like, "No, like, actually, I don't live close. I'm not from around here, but it's fine." And he was like, "Oh yeah?" And I was like, "Yeah, like, I don't live here." And he was like, do you like have a ride home?" And I'm like, "No, actually, like, I'm stuck. My car is parked across the street in the Walmart parking lot." And he says, "Oh, were you like the one who walked in earlier? Like, I think I saw that." And I was like, "Yeah, like, I walked in." Which, mind you, when I walked into the Starbucks, I walked in like knee-high fresh powder. Like, it was so much snow. And he was like, "Oh wow, like, that's crazy." He was like, "Do you need a ride?" Or he was like, "Do you have a place to stay then?" And I said, yeah, like, I just got a hotel room like up the road like, I'm totally taken care of, like, don't worry about it. And he was like, okay, great. And he was like, do you need a ride there? And I was just kind of like, I don't know. Like, I didn't really answer him. And he was like, don't worry, like, I got you. And in that moment, in that, like, very vulnerable moment where I just couldn't handle things for myself anymore, like, I was so past my threshold of, like, taking care of my own shit, he was like, I'll take care of you, like, you don't have to worry about anything. And, like, I'm forever grateful for that. I just was such a sigh of relief. And so they proceed to, like, do their closing duties and close up the Starbucks, and I'm sitting there, you know, finalizing my reservations, trying to do homework, which, like, that was not happening, and just watching the weather. And it was getting worse and worse. Like, I couldn't even look outside the window of the Starbucks because that's how much of a whiteout it was. Like, I couldn't see 5 feet in front of me. Like, I couldn't see the end of the parking lot from the chair inside. Like, it was literally insane, like, how bad the weather was. And I kept hearing, like, chit chatter from different people around the Starbucks, and they had said, like, oh yeah, I think maybe I-70 was around me, and they were like, yeah, I-70 is closed, like, eastbound. And I was like, oh shit, like, or no, westbound. Yeah, I think it was westbound. I-70 is closed westbound. And then I was like, that's exactly what I have to take to return my skis. Because at this point, I still have to return my skis. Like, I'm supposed to return them in the quote-unquote morning. And I haven't been there. They've been open since 9 a.m. And I haven't been there. And it's like 11 p.m. and I haven't returned them. And I'm like, shoot, how am I going to return these keys? Like, what am I going to do? Like, how am I going to be penalized? And I hear that I-70 is closed, you know, westbound. And I'm like, okay, that's my in. And so I call the ski rental place and I'm like, hey guys, how you doing? You know, my name is so-and-so. I rented skis from you guys. I'm supposed to be returning my skis this morning. And unfortunately, I've been trying to get to you guys all morning, but, you know, I-70 is closed westbound and I can't get to you guys. And the guy on the phone says, hold on 1 minute, like, let me get you my manager. And I was like, okay, cool. And so then all of a sudden their manager comes on the line and he's like, yeah, for sure. Why don't you hop on? And I literally thought to myself, like, he's about to give me an alternative route to get to the ski shop that doesn't involve the interstate. And I'm like, no, babe, like, I can't get to you. Like, I can't get out of the Walmart parking lot, much less can I get to the ski shop. Like, it's not happening. I was like, you are not about to give me alternative instructions to get to the ski shop. And I'm like, past my threshold. I'm like, babe, like, this is not gonna happen. And he goes, all right, so you're gonna hop on Yelp and give us a 5-star review, and then, like, we'll see you tomorrow morning. And I was like, you're joking. Oh my God. Like, praise God, you were so chill. There's no way that you just told me to give you a good Yelp review and then gave me, like, a whole nother day to return my skis. And I was just like, wow, I cannot believe this. And I was like, yes, absolutely, I will do that. Oh my gosh, yes, I'm so sorry, you know, whatever. And they hang up the phone and I'm like, okay, check. One less thing to worry about. Like, don't have to return my skis this morning. So anyways, they're closing up shop, doing whatever. I'm still kind of on edge, but not really on edge because I have someone who's going to drive me to the hotel and, you know, it's taken care of. You know, one more night in Colorado, but at least, like, I'll be in a warm place. I'll have a hotel bed, like, so much better than sleeping in my car. Like, it's fine. So anyways, they're cleaning up shop, and at one point, you know, the manager looks at me and he's like, don't worry, like, you do not have to leave the store. Like, I have got you. Like, don't feel like I have forgotten about you. Like, you can stay until we close. Like, don't worry. And I was just like, thank goodness this random guy is just, like, taking care of business because I am freaking my shit out. So anyways, this random Starbucks manager who I cannot tell you, I don't remember his name, but he like saved my life basically, drove me, and he ended up driving one of his coworkers home after that because she couldn't drive home either, because they ended up closing I-70 westbound and they ended up closing it I-70 eastbound too. Like they closed the entire interstates all the way around us. Like one of his coworkers could not drive home in her car, and like all of the roads were closed, so he offered to drive like multiple people home. So he drove me up and to the hotel. Like this random stranger, like the kindness of random strangers, like literally saved me from having to walk like half a mile in like knee to thigh high snow. And I spent the night in this hotel, like forever grateful. But literally every restaurant closed in Evergreen, Colorado. And so I was so hungry. Like I showed up to the hotel with the same clothes that I'd been wearing that morning. It was literally like 4 p.m. at this point. And I showed up in the same clothes that I had been wearing all day and for the past couple of days, because I never changed my clothes from like what I had slept in and like extra layers. I hadn't eaten anything all day. All I had in my backpack was 2 chicken nuggets and my toiletry kit. And so I get to the hotel and, I finally wash my face. I finally brush my teeth and I take a bath and I wash the clothes that I've been wearing for 3 or 4 days. I hand wash them in the bathtub and hang them up to dry. I wear a robe and, I eat the 2 chicken nuggets that I had with me, and then I had to eat like mini bar food, like lean cuisines that were way too expensive because I literally didn't have anything else. And I just, sat and made a game plan and relaxed and took in the freaking day that I had just had. And I could see the interstate from my window, and I watched them reopen the interstate and plow the interstate, and people start driving on it and stuff like that. And I just decided, I'm gonna go to sleep, get a good night's sleep, and attack the day tomorrow and start driving to Kansas/Arkansas. And my dad was like really worried that my radiator fluid would be frozen up and, a couple of other things. But I was pretty determined that my car was going to be fine as long as the roads were plowed properly, because I had been in under freezing conditions for over a week, and this situation was no different, other than the fact that it was more snow than what I had been in before. So I woke up that morning and I walked all the way back to the Walmart. And it's funny because that whole week my car had gotten snowed on, so I had to scrape the windows and brush the snow off. But I had refused to buy a ice scraper and a snow brush because I was like, I'm never gonna need this again. I live in Louisiana, we don't get snow, like it's a waste of money, like bah humbug. So I had used, different things in my car, like pieces of wood and whatever else. So anyways, I get to my car in the Walmart parking lot and it's literally like in a snow bluff, and I say, screw this. My car is in like 6 feet of snow right now. I'm walking into the Walmart and I'm buying a snow scraper and a snow brush because I'm not doing this bullshit. And I spent, $3 on a combo snow brush and snow scraper in Evergreen, Colorado. And when I had been procrastinating buying one for over a week, and I, rescued my car, turned it on, let it warm up, and was ready to hit the highway. And luckily, and it's funny because the one road that I needed to get out, wasn't plowed that day either. I don't know what it was about this side road that they just had decided that they didn't want to plow. But because it hadn't snowed in, 12 hours at this point, it was pretty mild. And so I made it up I made my way up the tiny little hill out of Evergreen, Colorado, and made it to the interstate. And as soon as I made it to the interstate, I was fine. Like, the conditions were great. I made it all the way back to return my skis, and I returned them, and everything was fine and dandy. And then I made my way out of Evergreen, Colorado, all the way down the mountain through Boulder and on to Denver. And I was supposed to make it all the way to what part of Kansas? Maybe Wichita, Kansas that day, which is supposed to be like 7-hour drive. But as soon as I hit like border of Colorado outside of Denver, I started driving down these back roads trying to get out of Colorado onto the main highway in Kansas. And apparently the night before, in the winter cyclone / blizzard, native Coloradians had decided to drive that day and had gotten stuck in the snow because they had underestimated the weather. And then the next day the snow plows had plowed the road, but they had to plow around abandoned cars. And so they had plowed like in zigzag formations around abandoned cars on the side of the road, and the snow drifts were like 6 to 8 feet tall. There were some cars that were completely buried in snow. Like, it was apocalyptic the way that the roads were looking. And you would drive all the way down this highway, for an hour. You would get down this highway or this interstate or 2-lane highway, and then all of a sudden it would be blocked off because there were too many cars that had been abandoned the day before, where the plow couldn't plow around them, and they hadn't been rescued yet that day. And so the road would just be blocked off, and you would get out of the car and you would talk to the other people, and you would say, have you been down this random highway? Have you been down that random highway? Like, I'm trying to go east, I'm trying to go west, I'm trying to go south, like, where do I go? And you would talk to each other. And sometimes you would get down another highway and you would encounter a local sheriff, and you would try to ask them, and no one knew which highways were open and which ones were closed. It was a shit show. And I wasted multiple hours trying to just get out of the state of Colorado, like trying to just get the heck out of Dodge. And I had left at like a pretty decent time in the morning, and I didn't get into Wichita until really late. Like, I think the drive took me 11 hours when it was supposed to take me 7. So an extra 4 hours. And then I drove across the entire state of Kansas, which, if you ask anybody who's done that, they'll probably tell you it's the most boring drive of their entire life. And I drove it by myself, and I genuinely do not know how I did it, and how I did it so seamlessly and effortlessly, because that's insane. Like, it's the same shit over and over and over again. And I drove it at night too, which is crazy. So anyways, I was originally going to drive from Keystone, Boulder to Little Rock, Arkansas in like 3 days, and then all of a sudden I had to drive it in 2 days. So I drove all the way to Kansas, and then I drove all the way to Arkansas the next day. And that weekend I went climbing, and it was perfect weather. It was like spring, early summer weather, where it's like the sun is on you but you're not like sweating your ass off, and it was beautiful. I was just sunbathing, like basking in the sun, when like literally 24 hours earlier, I was literally stuck in a blizzard. It was insane. So it's just really funny to me that like all of that was so preventable. It was just a bunch of tiny little decisions that led me to making the decision to even hang out with the boy. But like, if I would have just listened to the ski rental place on the phone and listened to their night drop off, like, I could have been able to drop my skis off in Evergreen, Colorado, or right outside of Evergreen, Colorado, midway down the mountain and made it all the way down to Boulder by the morning, and then probably missed the intense weather and gotten out of Colorado the day that I was supposed to. But literally me just not listening and being frantic and just saying, no, I'm going to return them in the morning, and not even thinking, is what got me stuck in a blizzard. And being distracted by a boy who I was getting a drink with, who I was supposed to go night skiing with when I didn't know how to ski, is what got me stuck in the blizzard. And like, I have never talked to this guy since then. And we like met up in Colorado, like a random state, when we had only met each other like once before when we were drinking. Like, it's just so silly and so weird. And like, we went night skiing together and then side hugged and said like, see you later, bye, like peace out, good to see you, fist bump. Like, that's just so weird. So anyways, that's the story of how I got stuck in a blizzard because of a tall, brown-haired, shy boy who I was only minimally attracted to. And I'll never let myself live it down. I think it's so hilarious and so ridiculous and kind of dangerous when you think about it. But that's the time I taught myself how to ski and got embarrassed in front of 5-year-olds who knew how to ski better than me. And made the most of the time that I had in Colorado. That was one of the most intense and last solo female road trips that I have taken. And let me tell you, it was one for the books. So anyways, thank you guys for joining me on my first ever Van Marie podcast. I think my first season is just going to be a series of travel stories that I have. This one literally just scratches the surface of just outlandish things that I have gotten myself into and that I have subjected myself to while pursuing the most spontaneous and serendipitous moments while also on a budget. Do you have anything to contribute? Thank you so much. So I will see you next time. There's no telling when a next edition will be put out, but I have a good list going of ideas. Let me know if you guys enjoyed this. If you have any comments or suggestions or feedback, I'd love to hear it. And until the next one, see ya. Bye, guys.